thank you, Romain, for joining us today. You are a legend in the watchmaking industry, I think it's safe to say.
Still alive.
So, living legend.
Just living. Just living. Yes, thank you.
Well, to give an idea, a background real quick, you grew up in the Val d'Ajou, in the heart of watchmaking, but didn't have the aspirations to be in watchmaking originally. Instead, went to school for engineering. But in that, the story goes that you got a chance to be hands-on in the early stages of engineering, realized that you like that better than the electronic engineering of.
Correct.
The love of music is, from what I remember, you wanted speakers and amplifiers.
Still today, I'm still crazy about.
Even though you didn't expect to go into watch, as soon as you finished college and started working, you ended up in watches in manufacturing side.
Yes.
And then from there, decided to get your MBA, actually start your own watch brand with, after talking a little bit with the other living legend, Philippe Dufour.
Yes, correct.
That's a statement to say, I want to start a watch brand and go to somebody like that to want to do it at that level.
Yes.
And before I know what we're talking before we get into any questions, but as time has gone by, and that's 2005, you released your first watch.
Yep.
And it's been 20 years since. And I think when looking from the outside perspective, when looking at your watches and the brand, I see there's unique things about the finish, the design, and movements. So those are the three things I want to ask about. And first, I want to start with design, which is when I see pictures of your office and your manufacturing facility, it's surrounded by modern art everywhere. Yeah, I love seeing interviews of you in the office and in the background, just picking out the different art. I find that fascinating because it's not the typical Swiss watchmaking. So my question is, how does that modern art influence the watch design?
I will say, the thing started in terms of design by the fact that I say to myself with the first caliber that when I started to design is that, Romain, look, you will take your own time to think about, to shape, to design the bridges, the wheels, the case and everything. So why doing exactly as everybody? Like the design of the wheels, the screws, for example, and that was, for me, the starting point to say that it's right. You're going to invest your own time during the weekend, during the holidays to produce the parts. So why not to think twice about your own design and also in terms of engineering, what makes sense in your own vision? And this is how I will say I started to design and to engineer the things like this, because I was not going to supply anything, but I was doing to do by my own. And, like to go every weekend, Saturday morning, even if I did all of the week, Saturday morning to go back to the same job, the same place, but doing my own, So this was, I will say, really an important step, and hopefully I did this reflection before to do the first caliber. You see what I mean? So this was, I would say, very good. Then I will say what has probably influenced me in terms of design is difficult to say, but the things that I know is I'm born in the Vallée de Joux. So I have seen watches all of my life, from different brands from the Vallée de Joux, and means for my brain, I had, anyway, if you don't want, but if you see that all of your life, your brain is like,
it will influence you.
Yeah, printing, in a certain way that shape of design, sensitivity, and for me, like closing my eyes was not difficult to imagine a watch. You see what I mean?
Yes.
So I will say this has helped me a lot. The fact that I was born there. And after that, I don't know. I like the certain, I don't know, proportion, aesthetic, but I had to find my own language, my own way. And so yeah, after that, I will say the HM, the Prestige HM, was, I will say, the first, with a lot of thinking about the position of the crown, and then after that, how to design the bridges with the Vallée de Joux inspiration with the multiple bridges. And this was also like things that for me was important. Like you have like the English style in terms of watchmaking, you have the German style, and the global, I will say, Swiss style. But there is also the Vallée de Joux a little bit with the famous bridges, finger bridge, exactly. And this was my inspiration. And I was not that back to that time interested to copy paste, the finger bridge. So, but the those bridges like this, where I will say for me, where I found my way in a certain point, and for sure, that I knew that by doing my MBA that the position that will make sense for me was to try to reach a level of like Philippe Dufour, like that kind of level of this. So for sure, the finishing was important. I remember the first time that I showed to Philippe the first prototypes. The beveling was like flat,
the 45-degree angle.
and it was him who advised me that, Romain, but yeah, it's nice, but why you don't do the Bercé bevel? And from this, it was absolutely right. And we have changed the 45 degrees. So it's why, all of the ébauche of the bridges were with the 45. And then by hand, we had to do the Bercé on every bridge.
Sure, exactly. Why not? Let's do it the hard way.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's how after that, I will say everything started. And after that, it's an evolution also, to start and to understand about that. Okay, start with the simple and then the HMS. And for me, after that was, the really an important step when I was thinking about what will be the next caliber.
Yeah.
And I questioned myself a lot, regarding the fact to say that, Romain, a lot of people are waiting something from you. We did the first caliber, fine, but it's the most simple movement in the world, hour minute. So collector and retailers,
I would say that that's not fair to yourself. Like, it's simple in time only, but at the same time, removing the crown from the front, moving it to the back is unusual.
Yeah.
And creating your own movement.
Yes.
From moment one.
Yes.
Because right. That is.
Yeah.
It's crazy in a good way. Yeah, because we see so many people, especially now that the watch industry has gone through a second boom. We see so many people trying to come into the industry, but it's very piecemeal. I'll just grab what people are already making.
You're right.
I'll take this movement from somewhere else. Yep. Very few people make their own movement. Even big brands don't make their own movements.
Correct.
So why go that extra mile from moment one?
I would say I knew that in a way that was my point. Basically, you're not a watchmaker. And I knew that I had to learn to walk before to run. And for me, the step of the HM was really that time to understand what is a watch, how it's working. I did all of the mathematics from A to Z for the development of the one. So from my numbers in mathematics, then became the reality. So this was also, I would say, a very important part, because I really took the side from this. And for example, even I would say the calculation of the hairspring was unique. So I didn't found in the market an hairspring that could fit the HM. So I had to order, I had to buy in a specialist the very specific hairspring that was fitting my calculation. And I understood before. After that, that in fact, brands start from the hairspring and go back to the barrel.
coming from the engineering side as an engineer versus coming from a watchmaker, that you did things harder, or you are glad that you came from that so that you did things differently?
I'm glad that I'm started like this. And I understood that few years now ago, when I discovered that the founder of Lemania, Mr. Legrand, was a precision mechanic guy.
There you go.
And exactly, and this was for me a kind of very, interesting, and a kind of approval that, and I was convinced about that. But Lemania is a statement, in terms of chronograph.
Legendary.
Exactly,
Yes.
and to understand that the founder was a precision mechanician exactly as me, I say to myself that, yeah, I understand.
Came at the right training, but
Yeah.
not the specific allowing
Yes.
you to look at it differently.
Because a watch is a small machine.
Absolutely.
And I will say, watchmaking is not just one job. It's multiple type of job
Yes.
to be able to realize a watch. So we should say that, to do a watch, you need to have like multiple specialists with
Absolutely.
different type of skills.
There are very few who can do it all
Yes.
to a near perfect degree.
Even us, I will say today, we don't do our cases. We do a little bit of the dance, but not yet everything. So, because you have to admit that, and this was my point when I started. I really decided about to say that, Romain, let's be focused on the movement. The collector will buy what you will do for mainly what is inside.
The movement
And
the
this is your
design,
strength, what is inside. And yes, the HM from the dial side wasn't necessarily back to that time the most extraordinary disc, but
But it was still Piochet.
yes,
done the
absolutely,
right way.
absolutely. So, but it was really a piece like very humble, discreet, pure.
It's more about the
yes, and a lot of collectors.
ridiculousness of the back.
In a certain way. So I would say a lot of collectors say to me, Romain, that we would like to wear the watch reverse. And this is how, in a certain way, I started to understand that, Romain, why just do the finishing crazy in a high level as you do with your team, and always to hide when you wear the watch. And this started to show to me that the HMS has to be with a partial opening.
Yes.
And this was, I would say, when I did the engineering and the design about the Prestige caliber, in fact, I already included the fact that one day it's going to be with a second and balance, and has to be balanced. So this is why the position of the escapement in the middle, and then you have,
You started with the design first,
yes.
and then figured out how to make the
yes,
movement around
exactly.
that.
And I would say the partial opening was really a kind of step to say that you don't have to be shy to show from the dial side what you do.
Agreed.
Yeah. If you don't do well, it's better to have a dial. You see what I mean? So
Fair
that
enough.
was the step with the logical one. And the logical one was for me, like, I started to talk about a very big question on myself, that to say about that watchmaking is a difficult place.
Yeah.
Are you able to do something more in every level than the first caliber? And I place a lot of pressure on myself, and also thinking about that. Do you have to continue with the watchmaking side or the manufacturing side for the brands that I was already doing? Back to we started probably to do. I started to do parts for other name back to 2008. Let's say 8.
That
It's
early.
around that. It's around that.
Famously, if I know it's known that you have extra manufacturing capacity and use it with other brands now.
Yes, exactly.
Manufacture some very high-end parts of very well-known brands.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I didn't realize it started so early.
Yes, exactly. It started like this, and it's why I had the legit question to myself to say that let's see what you are able to do, and became the vision about that, Romain. Don't hide the level of finishing and design to be just for the backside, but let's open everything.
And I mean, the level of finishing is when somebody starts talking about the best finished watches in the world, if your watches don't come up within a very, very short time, they're, I would say, uninformed. It's obviously the Philippe Dufour, Romain. It's as there's very few that are in that level of making sure the beveling is rounded, everything is done to the highest degree possible.
Yeah.
So first off, thank you for keeping that alive, because I know that is a very hard trait to do, and it takes time, and it equals a high cost of labor.
Yeah.
But my real question is, with so many watch brands that talk about hand finishing, does that require more education for a consumer, because that term almost feels watered down to what it really is?
I will say for sure. The industry is difficult and quite obscure.
Yes.
You know that, and by that sense, it's a little bit like the hand beveling. What the Poinçons de Genève accept, for example, is not necessarily the same way as we do. So there is, I will say, the beveling, which is from a disc of wood that we call the touret in French. That in fact the wood with a bit of diamond on it. You take the bridge, and I will say the disc will do the manual, but it's something we're turning fast. So in fact, you finish a bridge like quite fast.
Yes.
Because it's turning fast, so you cannot stay in. Otherwise, you do machining. You don't do beveling.
Yes.
So
you will not have much of a bridge left.
Yes, exactly. So it means there is a certain type of design that you can do with that technique.
Yes.
The technique that we use is by the file. And by the file, it gives you the vision that you can be more complex. So the shape of the bridges that you are going to design could be in a different level.
It can be more art.
Yes, in the artistic side. And this is what, for me, I really took on the logical one, is the side of the complex shape. Not just, the level of polish.
Yes.
I like a big bevel, because we already did it, with the HM. The Berset was, back to that time, probably the biggest Berset beveling in the market.
The first question is that it's not just the level of finishing, it's the design around that finishing that I find incredibly interesting and impressive, because it's not just about it's very well shiny. It's very well done. It's a matter that it's the entire visual thought from conception to finish.
Yeah. And I will say, when I did the design for the HM, for example, it was not just the question about the external sharp beveling with the Berset, but it was also the internal. And the shape of the internal that is on this caliber was also a starting of the complex shape. And then became, the logical one. The logical one for me, I said, Romain, if you open the dial like this to have like just a small dial, in fact, the movement has to be beautiful to see. So in fact, the movement became the dial in a certain point. And this was, for me, I will say, really important to place the trigger until that side. So the bridges, like for the balance wheel, for me is still today a state of the art of hand beveling. The two small arms, with the Berset beveling like a barrette, and the extremity, the different layers,
Yes.
It requires, I will say, a lot of skills, and it's not easy. And as you probably can see, that every watches are different.
And the logical one is sort of phased out right now, with the logical 2 coming from
Yes.
So we're hoping to see that this year as well.
No, 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 no,
Nope.
no, no, no.
It's still coming.
Yeah, no, no, still, I will say Rook, and Logical 2 is coming, but it's going to be more around 27,
Okay.
28. Yeah,
Uh,
we have different things who will come before, and I will say the next 5 years, I will say you will see a lot of what we call today the excellence in watchmaking. So it's going to be the Logical 2. Before that, we will have one which is called a Twisted. And after that, we will have, for sure, the micro rotor, the inside.
Yes.
The micro rotor is going to also to be discontinued.
Okay.
And this going, and another complication will come on the
Okay.
inside. So you will see a lot of
So the C
great
is the
things
only
coming.
one, the only watch that's going to continue for the near term.
I will say the C for me is my vision in terms of haute horlogerie. For me, I was always talking about that, like the logical one is like the haute couture. But we don't do couture. So I had to find a way that everybody understand when we talk about that, that there is a certain level of watchmaking that we should call that not anymore haute horlogerie, but the haute couture. So I decided
fair.
about to say excellence in watchmaking, and the C for me is the haute horlogerie. But I have placed, I will say, a lot of details, a lot of, I would say, experience that we got during those last 17 years before we launched it, about how to do that in a contemporary way. And the C was for me a challenging exercise because I'm more comfortable in a way to design like artistic design,
Versus
like
something that was a little bit more constrained.
And that was my point to say that, Romain, the level of price that when you started with the HM, you got a lot of collector who place an order, not just because what you have done, but because also the price point was absolutely correct.
Mid-30s.
Yes,
Yeah.
but I did mistake. It was exactly, and but in the thinking about the price point was, I will say, a certain reference, and I say to myself that we need to have something back at that level of price point, like when you started, but really adapted. That if you have a lot of demand, you need to be able to provide, and you need to be able, to have a return on investment.
Absolutely.
And everything on the C was developed in that direction to say that we need to have something more affordable, but also when people will have a look, also a kind of wow effect. Exactly.
It's still titanium movement, hand engraving.
Yeah, exactly. And the own design.
Yes.
You see the finger bridge. There is
love
the
those.
barrel.
Yeah.
There is the balance, and the one in the middle, which is a little bit different. But for me, even the C has a memory of the Vallée de Joux with the finger bridge.
So I have one last question, which is in an interview when asked about future Swiss watchmaking, you said that you fear Swiss made will lose its meaning because all things will become industrialized. Do you feel like maybe there needs to be a higher standard or stamp, or it says like this is true Swiss made, not just a percentage Swiss made, but to say that this is classic Swiss made, a Geneva seal type thing, but for all of Swiss watchmaking? Do you think that might be something along the lines to say, hey, we're still here at this level?
Yeah. It's a nice question, very interesting, and it's a subject for a thesis, in the thinking. So I will say the Swiss made became famous not for the quantities but for the quality.
Yes.
And I think every brand, we should take care about that. And quality doesn't mean necessarily high volumes and all of that. So we do a better quality if we take more time, if we have more time to do it. But then, it's also, a vision about the future of a brand, and I will say that. It's really depending, you need to know about what you want to do in, for example, in watchmaking, and and at the end of the day, for me, it's clear, when I did my MBA, I understood about the quantities of brand that was already in different segments.
Yes.
And I knew that I would have a place in the collector side and with the haute horlogerie, in the thinking about the level of
collectors that are
finishing.
very serious.
Exactly.
Very
exactly.
much care about those.
And I choose that direction. And this is I will say, I think this is exactly what we do. The world is big for sure, but we work for that in a way to still continue to make, I will say, exceptional things from Switzerland, not necessarily in terms of quantities. I am aware and I know that, what we do is not for everybody. But is everything should be for everybody? I don't know if everything should be for everybody. You see what I mean?
That's a boring world.
So it's a kind of things that there is a lot of things that are desirable, but we know that, from, like to be an astronaut, okay, yeah, but good luck if you want to be an astronaut. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not just a question of material things. It's a question about a human being and this. So at the end of the day, I'm aware about that. We are not able to do that for everybody. And I'm also happy that there is brand who does things more affordable than us and for everybody. So, it's a difficult question. The answer is also complicated.
Yes.
And I try, really to do the things with the level of price that fit with. I don't want to see ourselves to have one day a price is like crazy, and you don't get the value of that. You see what I mean?
Yes.
So I always, really, really take an importance about the value of what we do, and the price point has to be like this, and even more maybe.
If you're gonna charge a certain amount, expect a certain amount of labor and love and art has gone into it.
Yeah.
That's fair.
And this is why, I like, the complex beveling, not just, the level of finishing. I have, my own vision about, and it's personal. And so everyone has the freedom, in a certain way to design about what they want. And I can say to you, that my gift of what we do is traveling and seeing our collectors.
Well, thank you.
But it's always a pleasure. We have incredible collectors with a level of maturity, with an understanding about values, education. So it's great, and I'm aware that you cannot get that on every segment.
No.
So this wasn't intentional, but I will say that what we do, and probably, it's related about the philosophy, and the type of design that we do, give us incredible people around the world.
Well, thank you for coming, and thank you for sitting down with us.
Thank you. A great pleasure.